My guest today is Yoshi Barrigas, and he is an American actor and musician recognized for his work in television and film. Now, he gained international attention for his portrayal of Philip the Apostle in the globally acclaimed series The Chosen. Now, Yoshi made his Hollywood debut on The Big Bang Theory and has appeared in Criminal Minds and Six and played the lead role in the feature film 47 Days with Jesus in 2024. And he has worked alongside industry veterans including Brad Pitt and Walton Goggins. Now, going by the name of YŌSH, Barrigas writes, produces, and performs music, blending cinematic emotion with a distinct alternative sound. And he stars in the new film documentary, Remi Milligan, Lost Director, that explores the life of Remi Milligan, a filmmaker known for genre-defying cult films. And it delves into his unique style, the toll on his personal life, and the mystery of his 2006 disappearance. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome actor, producer, and musician Yoshi Barrigas and the doc fiction film Remi Milligan, Lost Director, to the show. Welcome, Yoshi.
Wow, that was brilliantly done, Ward. You've done this before. Thank you so much. I haven't heard my life told out like that in such a compact way in a while. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and you have such a great television as well as a film resume. And of course, you've been part of probably the largest audience viewed series in the world, The Chosen. And but you got your beginning on The Big Bang Theory. How did you get that job?
Oh man, a lifetime of picking my nose, I guess. No, that was kind of my first big opportunity here. I moved here in 20 moved to Los Angeles in 2020, and yeah, I was just kind of hitting the game of auditioning. And I remember being in the waiting room for that one, just thinking like, looking at all these other actors that kind of looked like me, and just feeling a bit nervous. And then going in, and they asked me just to pick my nose, and and so that was I don't know. My parents always joke that I got that job, just based off of the good nose that my parents gave me.
Well, I'm going to ask you one chosen question, and because I find it awe-inspiring in the fact that it is the largest crowd-funded series in history. Does that make production easier or a little frantic when you know that the money didn't come from a studio?
Um, well, I suppose, that sort of for the creators of the show help them to have a sort of freedom in their creative, exploration, not really having someone breathing down their neck telling them what to do. They were making the show for themselves and for the fans that were supporting the show. Um, yeah, I think if anything, it was sort of liberating.
Well, it is a global success, but now you are both actor and executive producer of this docu-fiction film, Remi Milligan Lost Director. What drew you to be a part of this film and portray the mysterious filmmaker Remi Milligan?
Well, I was contacted by the filmmaker Sam Lodato, and he offered the role to me. And at that point, I had never done a comedy, which was something I'd always wanted to try. And I mean, who doesn't want to play a narcissistic, tyrannical director who thinks he's making masterpieces, but is really making B movies? But yeah, so there's a lot of firsts for me. Having a British accent, doing a comedy, doing a mockumentary, shooting in London. A lot of firsts for me on this one, and it was an absolute joy and blast to be on set. And Sam, the director, was really great from the beginning about being very open to collaboration with me. So we had a lot of opportunities on set to just try things and play around and sort of discover things in the moment. And yeah, it was a blast.
So, how much research did you do to understand Remy's mindset, his vision for filmmaking, and I guess his quirky behavior?
Yeah, I revisited some classics, like like Ed Wood and Eight and a Half. Films that sort of portrayed these delusional, like ego-driven filmmakers. But it was for me. It was more about recognizing the human underneath that and what was driving him to trying to understand the sort of insecurity underneath his arrogance, really. And yeah, and then just kind of letting it rip from there, and just because a lot of the scenes I'm involved in is B-roll footage from the movies that my character was making, and so it's a lot of sort of abusing my crew members and kind of forcing them to try things on set that they have no sort of idea of what is in my head and what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well,
And yes,
yeah, because Remy would, he had the whole vision in his head about whatever film, and and it's funny because I found where he would do a film, finish the film, then his next idea was the complete polar opposite of what he had just done. So it's almost like he
right.
was trying to jump into every single genre of film to see if he could do it himself.
Yeah, I think there's something there. I think he probably didn't know what he was trying to make either. And so he'd probably he'd probably something would probably catch his fancy in the wind, and he'd probably follow a lot of his whims and just sort of have this genre fluid desire to try everything and succeed at everything. And maybe that sort of lack of honing in on one specific goal uh, potentially is the reason why his films kind of feel a little bit absurd and random.
Well, did were you able to talk to any of the members of his family and personal friends?
um, yeah, yeah. I think I tracked them down, and they had a lot of interesting things to say about him. Yeah.
So for them, was it a different persona as for what he was like at home versus what he was really like as a filmmaker?
Um, well, are we doing a bit here? I can't tell.
Well, the film, the what makes this film so cool is as I was watching it, I was trying to figure out, okay, which parts are real and which parts are either the reenactment, the mockumentary, because it's done so well and so seamless, you can't tell.
That's sort of the idea. Yeah. We want people talking, and Sam did an incredible job of the interview portion of the film. The actors who are portraying these real life people who are talking about Remy's life and career, um, their sort of realism and naturalness. It's yeah, it's very convincing. And one of the reasons why I signed on to the project to begin with is I was shown those interviews actually before we filmed my stuff, and I also couldn't tell. And so yeah, it's kind of like, is this real or not?
That's exactly how I viewed it when I was watching the whole film, and because I'm like, because what throws the audience off is those areas in which they blur out Remy. So were the blurred portions, was that really Remy or was that just all the reenactments?
Which part are you talking about?
Where they would blur out Remy.
So I actually haven't seen the film yet. I'll be seeing it for the first time at the premiere. I yeah, I preferred to wait to see it with everyone else. So I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I'll just leave it at that. But all I know is that every audience is going to view this and they're not going to know the difference between archived footage versus what was reenacted. The people, because again, Sam did just a phenomenal job in putting this film together. But I was trying to look at all of the different films that Remy did. Uh, how many of those did you have to reshoot segments of those films for this film?
Yeah, so we did. As far as our film's concerned, we sort of explored 3 to 4 of Remy's films, and I was involved in shooting the B-roll footage of 3 of them: Killer Pencil, Satsu Man, and the Greek Connection. So with Killer Pencil, we sort of explored this horror genre. It's basically a pencil that comes to life and haunts me and chases me throughout this home and tortures me. So we got to explore some of that, and then we went on to the Greek Connection, which is sort of like like a crime thriller. So Remy gets to be the cool hero, sort of Ryan Gosling esque type character, saving the damsel in distress. And then finally, Satu Man. I wouldn't even begin to be able to tell you what that is. That's a question for Sam. But Satu Man is something to do with an orange. Yeah. Sam is a really unique guy, and he brought a lot of his weird, uh, dreamy type characters to this film.
It was funny because when I saw Satsu Man and I got to thinking, I'm like, did well, at the time, Remy didn't know, but Remy, by creating that character, was really before the Angry Orange came to pass on YouTube. Which now, what he ends up signing what a year or two ago, he ends up signing this $50 million deal, and I'm thinking, Remy, you were so close.
What is this now? The
There,
what orange?
it's this little character on YouTube. I think they called him the Angry Orange, and he ends up signing literally signed a $50 million deal with one of the networks. And when
Wow.
I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, Remy got there first.
Yeah. See, Remy just doesn't get the respect he deserves. That's why we made this film, to try to recall his great glory while he was around and see if people can remember him.
Well, how did you and Sam film this? Because as I'm watching it, I'm part of me is like, okay, how far did they take it into post production? But on set, did Sam use old filmmaking techniques to get the right feel and the right look of what Remy had done in the past?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, he used all physical media, and old cameras. We had this giant old brick of a camera on set, and so all the scenes that I'm involved in is shot in that way as B-roll footage. And yeah, there is even a sort of kind of allegory throughout the film, as Remy starts to like decline in health from his obsession over this filmmaking and a car accident he's in. He starts to his health starts to fade, and then he disappears. And to this day, we don't know what happened to him. And there's a bit of a parallel there with the disappearance of physical media itself. And yeah, that's kind of what Sam's intentions were. I don't want to speak for him,
Wow.
but
That is an eye opener because as I was watching it, I'm looking at areas of that's old. That's the old style of filmmaking, which even today you could still do and create a great film. And
mm,
so this whole project was done on real film.
not film, but just old digital cameras. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. In the
yeah,
old, yeah, when they were really
yeah,
big.
yeah, yeah, with like tapes and everything. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about because I love the look because the thing about Everybody has their favorite cult films, and the cult films always have that great look. Yes, in the 70s, which Remy really brings forth that look of the 70s and really lesser than the 80s and 90s, but you can tell the time period in certain scenes. For you, do you have a particular cult film that you love?
You know, one of my favorite directors is Alejandro Jodorowsky. And so he was sort of, I think he's kind of considered like one of the first cult filmmakers. The midnight movie sort of phenomenon, like that kind of started with him making his films. And John Lennon, I believe, actually saw his first film, El Topo, at one of these midnight movie things in New York, and loved it so much that he ended up financing Jodorowsky's following film, which was The Holy Mountain. So I'm not personally a huge B movie or cult movie kind of guy, but Jodorowsky is one of my favorite directors, and his movies are sort of considered kind of like the original cult phenomena films. His films are absolutely insane, but he really, he really, you know, he sort of invented a language that really stretched cinema, I believe, in ways that I haven't seen since.
Well, was did Remy ever go to film school, or was he just like a lot of young filmmakers today, winging it from the very beginning?
Oh, definitely winging it with Remy. Yeah, yeah. So Remy, he had an uncle he was close to, and his uncle passed away and left him a little chunk of change, and that's sort of what funded these, passion projects for him, was this money that he inherited from his uncle. Um, so he was born Michael Benedetto, and he changed his name to Remi Milligan, and just sort of adopted this new persona and started making these crazy films about oranges and pencils.
Well, do you believe that the hidden backbone of the film industry are those filmmakers that are basically round pegs not fitting into square holes? Because I know cult films have a long history in film.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's just it's interesting with making movies today. I think less and less we're getting filmmakers taking chances, because even a lot of the sort of auteur artsy filmmakers, they're starting to recognize that it's getting harder and harder to convince studios to take chances. So you're seeing filmmakers make a little bit more conventional films than maybe they want to, so that they can sort of prove that they can make something that can make a profit. So yeah, I do sort of wonder if we're because then you'll see like someone like Damien Chazelle make a movie like Babylon, right? Like he was sort of a Hollywood darling before that with La La Land and Whiplash, but then he makes Babylon, which I think is sort of an artistic statement he was trying to make. Audiences didn't get it, and it flopped, and then he sort of went into like director prison for like the last, I don't know, 8 years or however long it's been. So um, yeah, I think it's an interesting time for sure for filmmakers.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and it's always been a little thorn in my side. I spend so much time on IMDb because I'm doing so much film research, and then you look down the list of a particular director, and you look at all of these films, and you see what the budgets are. Then you see the box office, and you see that where they got famous, where the studio trusts them. Then they give them a film, it bombs, and then they completely blame it on the director. You read the reviews, and the film is accepted as a good, decent film that everybody should see, but it falls back on the marketing department for screwing it all up. But the director takes the hit, and in some cases, if they have enough clout, they can still get another film, or like you said, they're put in the director's jail for the next 5 or so years. And it's a
Yeah,
weird business.
Yeah, I think it's a tale as old as time as far as art is concerned, where it's the artist is constantly juggling, um, you know, making something for them versus making something for the audience, or making something um, that is expressive of something they're trying to say, whilst also sacrificing the potentiality for it being marketable or consumed on a mass scale. And so, yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, I'm working on music myself right now, and I just because it's easy to sit and judge artists from afar when you don't know the backstory of, like, you know maybe what's going on behind the scenes, where they're having voices in their ear kind of telling them to make things a little bit more digestible, because otherwise they won't be able to make another film. And with the music I've been working on, I've even faced moments where I'm like, trying to like stretch the song into a place where I'm making sort of unpredictable choices, but then I'll like have a few friends listen to it and they'll be like, "Yeah, I really liked it up until like the song sort of like kind of like collapsed in on itself, and then it kind of felt like you were just making fun of me for liking the song." And it's like, "Oh, well, that wasn't my intention." So it's kind of like you're constantly battling this stretching of like, "Oh, I want to make something unique and different, but I also want people to still be able to enjoy it, you know?"
Yeah, I think that's where, and see, and it's harder for musicians because I've interviewed a lot of them. And okay, so there's two. Let's say, so we have two audiences. There's the listening audience that loves music. There's a viewing audience that loves film. The music audience, it's basically you've heard, the whole deal about there are just songs out there that are just simply manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have those that write songs that just it's a God-given talent. They know how to tell a story. It comes across great. But then there are some songs which we may all like, or maybe there's some songs that we don't like. But have you ever heard a song you didn't like, but then when you heard the backstory, you went, "Oh, now I get it," and now you like the song?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, and in film too. Actually, I was just having this conversation with a friend about a film that I won't mention the name of the film just so I don't, sound like I'm insulting anyone. But I personally didn't like this film when it came out, and my friend thought it was okay. But then he listened to the director talk about the making of it, and he sent that conversation to me. And yeah, when you sort of understand the blood, sweat, and tears that went into the filmmaking process or the song making process, it does sort of change your relationship with the piece a little bit. And yeah, it's always easy to judge and critique. But also, some pieces require multiple viewings or multiple listenings to really, there's some music I heard recently. What was it? The new Tame Impala record. Everybody was hating on it, and my first listen through, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really into electronic music. I didn't really get it." But then I listened to it again, and I totally got it. It just grew on me. And sometimes art takes multiple viewings.
It does, and I like when it comes to film, the biggest genre that I cover is short films. And the blessing on that side is I can watch them over and over again. That if I didn't catch it the first time, I'm going to start to understand it the second or third time as I'm breaking them down. And it just recently, uh, director Del Toro came out, because he Frankenstein is now out, and he said, when you see the film, when you see the ship, we built that. None of that
Mm-hmm.
is CGI. And he said the reason why we did that because I don't want the audience to sit there and go, "Oh, it's CGI." He says because the moment it comes out of their mouth, it's a negative, and I don't want a negative, so we built the freaking ship.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, as long as you got a studio that's going to write a check for that, that's all well and
Right.
good. And but yeah, to me, it's the backstory that helps to improve art. And I think even today, because social media is so big, there's so many people, and you know this, Yoshi, where it seems that the audience will jump on a negative faster than a positive sometimes. And I think that from recording artists to filmmakers, spend time telling part of the backstory, because I think that will add a much greater positivity to one's own work.
Amen. I think so. Yeah, I think that's yeah. It helps for people to understand what goes into things. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and well, with his film Remi Milligan, which I really liked, because I just you have to compliment Schlocky, because
Right.
that's exactly what this is, and it reminded me. I had a dear friend, filmmaker, film director, Herschel Gordon Lewis, who was known as the Godfather of gore, and he was known for his horror and gore films to be schlocky, but much of those 40 films ended up being cult films. So when I watched Remy Milligan, I got it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, it's definitely for anyone who's into this sort of B movie phenomenon. It's This is definitely right up your alley.
It is. And the great thing is there's a lot of people out there that love films like this. They love filmmakers that do films like this. And
Mm.
because, you know, and you know this now, and we're seeing AI come in taking over everything, and really not just taking over, ruining the artistic expression, because there's no artistic expression in AI. And to see this film, it takes us back when the films were the size of cars, and you were hauling, cans of film, and putting that together, and then spending a year in editing, cutting, splicing. That's what this film does. I think it highlights the beauty of where the film industry has come from. And so with Remy Milligan, Lost Director, when does it debut to the public?
I believe we're releasing it on November 25th on Amazon and some other streaming services as well. Um, but yeah, you bring up a good point. I think it's good timing for a film like this with the advent of AI. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of people who find pleasure in the sort of real human elements of art. The almost like the imperfection of art, and I'm seeing a lot of things come out now. There's this new Geese record, this band Geese. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like that for me is a perfect example of music that cannot be replicated by AI. And it's these kids in their early 20s who are making this incredible music. Gen Z making this incredible music that is just absolutely strange and so unique that it cannot be made by machines. And so I think hopefully you'll start to see more and more art that is taking chances and is sort of representative of what is human.
Very, very much so. Well, tell me about the music that you write and play.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Really, it's just a hobby of mine. Not, I wasn't. I mean, I'm never. I'm not trying to be a musician per se, but it's just something that I have a great passion for. And I put out. I started only writing music a couple years ago, and um, decided to not be so precious about the process and just like write a song and put it out. Write a song, put it out. And so I've put out, I think, 4 songs now, but it's been almost a year since I've released anything. And I just wrapped up in the studio doing a few more songs. So hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll be releasing some new music. Yeah, it's sort of very genre fluid. And I think what's interesting about this album I'm working on is that it's sort of representative of someone who's trying to find their voice as a musician. So a lot of different genres, a lot of different sounds of how I'm singing, um, and yeah, again, it's just a sort of non-precious attempt at making music. So sort of willing to fail in public in a way.
Well, if a studio ever decides to do a biopic of Jim Croce, I think they're going to need to call you first.
You're not the first person to say that to me.
Well, I
Sign me
grew
up.
up
He's
on Jim
amazing.
Croce. I grew up
Oh, I
on
love
him.
him. And it would be a great story too, right? He, tragically passed away on that plane crash, right?
Yeah, yeah. I actually have a friend of mine who's a well-known artist that in the early days he was working for, I believe, a publishing company, and he said, "Hey, you need to go to the airport and pick up this young man. He's flying in." And that was back in the day when you could just drive up to an airport and just sit there and wait for the people to come out. And so he was sitting there, and 2 hours passed by. And then some guy comes out and goes, "Hey, are you so and so?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "There's a phone call for you." So he goes inside, and they said, "You don't have to be at the airport anymore. Jim won't be arriving." And he goes, "Why?" He says, "His plane crashed."
Oh,
So he was the one that was actually going to pick them up.
wow.
So I was
That's
just like,
awful.
yikes. And I grew up, I was a kid with a little transistor radio with a little antenna that you pulled out. And I still remember one of the first songs I ever heard was Leroy Brown.
Mm,
Yeah,
man.
but you could pull that off so easily.
I'd love to. Let's hope that when that does happen one day, they go back to this interview and they say that was the genesis of that idea.
Hey, we got to speak it and we got to put it out there for things to happen. But you have any new TV or film projects up ahead that you can talk
Um,
about?
yeah, I just shot a film down in Nashville and I just shot one out here in Los Angeles. I'm going to just play it safe and just say I don't think I can talk about them, but they were really fun. And uh, yeah, hopefully we'll do another interview one day and I can tell you more about them.
Hey, well, that'll be awesome. And Yoshi, you are always welcome back on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, Remi Milligan, Lost Director, is an in depth, well, documentary or mockumentary that explores the life and work of Remi Milligan, an underground filmmaker whose eccentric vision and low budget productions left an indelible mark on the fringes of cinema. Now, Remi Milligan became a controversial figure in the world of independent filmmaking, known for his provocative themes and boundary pushing storytelling. Now, his films, which often delved into schlocky, horror, and sleazy genre territory, were produced on shoestring budgets yet managed to capture the imaginations of a growing cult following. Now, movies like Killer Pencil and Satsuman might not have made it to the mainstream, but they became beloved among niche audiences for their raw, audacious creativity and unapologetic defiance of conventional cinematic standards. Now, the documentary features exclusive interviews with Milligan's closest family members, friends, and collaborators, each offering unique insights into the man behind the camera. Now, through their accounts, viewers gain a deeper understanding of Milligan's relentless passion for filmmaking and the toll it took on his personal life. Even his health and relationships suffered greatly as he became consumed by his projects, often working in isolation and rejecting more commercial avenues in favor of staying true to his controversial vision. Now, in addition to exploring the filmography of Remi Milligan, Lost Director, it investigates the circumstances surrounding his mysterious disappearance in 2006, and we still don't know what happened. So, Yoshi, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show and sharing this great, docu-fiction film with me today.
Ward, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Yoshi. And again, you're always welcome back. I can't wait to see what your brand new projects are, as well as checking out your music. And ladies and gentlemen, you can do the same. And Remi Milligan, Lost Director, debuts streaming November 25th. So check it out. So if you want to kind of get the inside look of where film has, well, birthed from, blossomed from, well, when we used to really film On film, this is the documentary you gotta see. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bondon Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.